lacagaha duuga waxayna ku tilmaameen waxa sababta u ah wax soo saarka dalka oo hoos u dhacay iyo badeecooyinka dalka yaala oo inta badan laga keeno dibadda kuwaas oo ay weheliyaan lacagaha been abuurka ee dalka lagu sameeyo waxayna arrimahan oo isbiirsada keeneen bay yiraahdeen sicir barar iyo in la diido lacagaha duugoobay waxayna intaasi raaciyeen tan iyo markii la soo dhisay xukuumadda Nuur Cadde inay ka shaqeynayeen sidii loo yareyn lahaa dhibaatooyinka bulshada haysta sida ay hadalka u dhigeen waxayna soo jeediyeen in la joojiyo daabacaadda iyo isticmaalka lacagaha cusub ee been abuurka ah lana qaato midii hore ee duugowday waxayna sheegeen in dawladda ay qorsheynayso isticmaalka lacagaha duugoobay iyagoona u jeediyay ganacsatada iyo qaybaha kala duwan ee bulshada inay qaadaan lacagihii hore sida uu ka dhawaajiyay wasiirka maaliyadda Maxamed Cali Xamuud oo shir jaraa'id ku qabtay xarunta madaxtooyada
dawladda waxay dhiirigelinaysaa socodsiinaysaa lacagta duugda ah asalka ah ee sharciga ah waxaa lagu boorinayaa ganacsatada dadweynaha inay qaataan lacagta duugga ah oo sharciga u dhow cid kasto oo ka hortimaado socodsiinta lacagta duugga ah waxaa lala tiigsanayaa waxaa laga qaadayaa tallaabooyin sharci ah
sidoo kale wasiirka ganacsiga dawladda ku meel gaarka Xuseen Ceelaabe Faahiye ayaa isna ka dhawaajiyay in lacagaha been abuurka ah lagu sameeyo qaybo ka mid ah gobolada dalka Soomaaliya
laba makiinadood baa jirtay mid koonfur bay tahay mid yar bay ahayd sicirkii baa ku qaali noqdo way joojiyeen waa ka baxay hadda makiinada weyne waxay taallaa Puntland waa la dagaalamayna kala keena waa inaynaan qaadan anaa shajcinaya anigaa shajcinaya oo leh maxamed waa xaaraan waa waraaq faa'iido leh haddaan ku diidno qiimo ay leedahay ma jiro marka adeerna yaalo door weyn baad ka qaadan kartaan in waxaan naga codsanaya inaad dadkeena ka dhaadhicisaan waajibka ka saara badbaadinta ummadda Soomaaliyeed ee maanta
taliyaha ciidanka booliiska Soomaaliya Generaal Cabdi Xasan Cawaale Qaybdiid oo isna shir jaraa'id ku barbar qabtay golaha wasiirada ayaa beeniyay in ciidamada booliiska dawladdu ay dilal u geysteen ilaa iyo 4 qof oo lagu dilay banaanbax ka dhacay magaalada Muqdisho kaasi oo looga soo horjeeday diidmada lacagaha duugoobay
caddeynaya inaysan jirin wax dil ah oo ka dhacay ay geysteen ciidanka booliiska Soomaaliyeed oo loo geystay dadkii banaanbaxayaasha ahaa laga bilaabo waqtiga hadda oo ay dawladdu ka soo saartay maantay amarka ka bixisay cid kasta oo diida lacagtaas la ogol yahay ma ahan mid aan la ogolayn mid la ogol yahay oo lacagta duuga oo hadda dalka taal cidii diida ciidanka booliiska wuxuu ka qaadanayaa in qofkii ku xadgudbo sharciga la horgeeyo
hadalka ka soo yaray dawladda ku meel gaarka ee ku aadan qaadashada
Islamist fighters and Somali troops backed by their Ethiopian allies killed an estimated 6,500 civilians last year. And it's left up to 1 million Somalis living as refugees in their own country. Michelle Kagari is the Africa Deputy Director of Amnesty International.
The main thing really that came out was that Ethiopian troops have been involved in going into areas after there's been attacked by militias, cordoning off the areas with snipers and basically killing whoever is there, including a technique that we were told about by countless people, which Somalis refer to as slaughtering like goats, and they would make the motion across their throats, which was that the Ethiopian troops are slitting their throats and letting civilians lie in the pool of blood and die that way.
Views of Amnesty there. Well, the violence that's plagued Somalia for years has led hundreds of thousands of Somalis to flee to Yemen. Last year, more than 100,000 people are reported to have made the perilous journey across the Gulf of Aden.
Well, this year 32,000 others have joined them, but it's estimated that 1 in 20 did not survive the trip. From the Karez camp in Yemen, Hashim Albara reports on Somalia's many refugees.
This desolate desert to the west of Aden has become a bleak shelter for thousands of Somali refugees who fled their war-ravaged country. Liban Hassan Fari has just arrived after a long and treacherous sea journey. He is lucky. Others have drowned or even been thrown overboard by their ship's crew when things have gone wrong on the crossing. These refugees are hoping for a better life here in Yemen or the possibility of being resettled in the wealthy Gulf countries or Europe. But the authorities in Yemen and the United Nations High Commission for Refugees are concerned that with the chaotic situation in Somalia, these people may not be able to return back to their homeland in the near future. Mariam took the same risk with her husband 15 years ago. For her and her family, life in Yemen is tough. During summer, they struggle with the heat. Her children find it hard to sleep at night because of mosquitoes. They get a monthly official ration of flour, cooking oil and rice. It is never enough. There are still cases of malnutrition, says this woman. But despite everything, life in Yemen is still better than Somalia. Those who grew tired of the tough conditions at the Kharaz camp moved to this slum on the outskirts of Aden. The Basatin, or the Gardens as it is known here, has become a meeting point for smugglers and drug dealers. The United Nations High Commission for Refugees and local officials are helping families start small businesses like this one that helps make traditional clothes.
What we intend to achieve is to make the women have economic power to be able to take care of their household needs and also to support their children.
Every day, more and more Somali refugees land in Yemen. This camp was supposed to be temporary. Now it's a permanent home for thousands. They have only one very unlikely hope, that one day peace will prevail in Somalia so they can return home. Hashim Al-Barra, Al Jazeera, the Kharaz camp west of Aden.
Well, let's get more on the situation with Somali commentator Abdi Mohammed. Good to see you again. I want to go back to that report by Amnesty International about the abuses we're seeing in Somalia. Are those the sort of stories that you're hearing from your people on the ground?
Well, definitely that's what is happening in Somalia. And what the Amnesty International outline is exactly what is happening in Somalia and what has been happening for the last 1 year since the Ethiopian forces invaded Somalia and the resistance or the resistance movement started to fight against them.
Are you finding that the abuses have increased over the last couple of months? Amnesty reported that.
Yes, every time that the fighting between the two forces escalates, definitely the abuses also increase from both sides. Unfortunately, the people of Somalia today are between in rock and hard place because on one side the Ethiopians and the transitional federal government are indiscriminately attacking and targeting populated civilian area. On the other side, the Al-Shabaab, which is a radical organization, also targets civilians, and also they target anyone who opposes their opinion in relation to their politics.
The terrifying thing is it doesn't really matter whether the Somali people remain in their capital, Mogadishu, or they flee to the refugee camps, because neither place, it appears, is safe for them.
Yes, definitely. There is nowhere that's safe for the Somali people today. And unfortunately, the international community are not doing anything about it. What the international community today they are concerned about is the war on terror. They are more worried about 2 or 3 members of Al-Qaeda in Somalia. They are not really focusing on the devastation and the suffering that the Somali people are suffering in terms of humanitarian situation and in terms of the food crisis.
Agencies are working in Somalia, but on the political front, what exactly do you expect the international community to do? I mean, it is a very complicated internal struggle, isn't it, in Somalia?
Somali problem is very complex, of course. It has different dimensions. There's a local dimension, there's the regional dimension, and the international dimensions. And there is no doubt that the international dimension and the local the regional dimension is the one that is really making the situation very bad. As long as the Ethiopian forces are in Somalia, and as long as the Americans are only focusing on the war on terror, but they are not focusing on the humanitarian situation and the issue of reconciliations between the different Somali political groups, I do not think that the situation will get better.
Amnesty International has produced this quite comprehensive report, but it is actually quite difficult, isn't it, for agencies within Somalia to report what they're seeing? I mean, I assume they do come under pressure to keep quiet or be told they're kicked out. Is that right?
Yes, they do get pressure from the Ethiopians and the transitional federal government, and there is no doubt that they do not want international organizations and international news agents to broadcast exactly what's happening. I think what is needed today is that both sides, either from the Al-Shabaab group, which is very radical, and which is unfortunately incubated by the American foreign policy and the Ethiopians' invasion in Somalia. Before the Ethiopians' invasion, the Al-Shabaab